This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to welcome you back to another edition of Toxic Bitcoin Saturday, in which we answer viewer questions, highlight important comments and posts, and also make comments that may increase my need for a personal bodyguard. We begin with male birth control is now free. Just put .eth in your name. That's for all the people who know people in the Ethereum community. ETH actually transitioned to proof of stake back in September of 2022, which has been a complete disaster for the protocol, hitting new lows against Bitcoin for this move. We can see here when ETH peaked shortly before the move from proof of work to proof of stake, which was really the castration of ETH. It was bad already, but that was the nail in the coffin for ETH. So hitting new lows here against Bitcoin, even though we're in the middle of a very strong Bitcoin bull market. Another good reminder here from Tour. Remember when ETH pumpers coined the term ultrasound money, trying to be Bitcoin's little brother, because the merge was going to make their grift coin deflationary. And it looks like ETH supply is actually back to where it was when they first did the merge, or almost back there. Another reminder of scammers in this space. Here we have Brad Garlinghouse meeting with President Trump. I think Marty Bent has a great comment here. Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple are parasitic leeches coasting off of Bitcoin's success to affinity scam the world at one of the most crucial points of human history. We get freedom or absolute dystopia, and Ripple is trying to bring about the latter while trashing Bitcoin, which enables the former. Here, of course, alluding to the fact that Ripple, the company, and XRP have been working very hard on supporting CBDC, central bank digital currencies. So this is an absolutely disgusting group of people at Ripple. Ripple hitting new all-time highs supposedly after 45% spike this week. Getting a lot of comments on my old Ripple videos, which people who are new to XRP should probably take a look at. This one, any update, funny guy? XRP just about to hit a new all-time high anytime soon, dude. My response, why do shitcoiners always think in fiat terms? Take another look at the XRP BTC chart. Here we can see that XRP versus Bitcoin isn't even back to where it was in 2021 and 2020, very far from hitting new all-time highs against the strongest money in the world and the most important asset in the world. So this is a good lesson and a good reminder that altcoiners, shitcoiners, they always think in fiat. They don't think in actual hard money terms. This was my tongue-in-cheek response to all this news that Trump might be enabling the XRP scammers, which has been denied by some people close to Trump, but you never know. This was my tongue-in-cheek tweet. The Fed should print $30 trillion and buy XRP. It's the best way to kill multiple birds with one stone, to kill the Fed, the U.S. federal government, the U.S. dollar, and XRP. I want every single highly regarded market participant in the world to own as much XRP as possible. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support this channel's mission. Hit the subscribe button. That does really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. Question here, if I buy $100 worth of Monero on a KYC exchange, that just means an exchange where you give up your personal information like your home address and your driver's license and your name and social security number. If I buy $100 worth of Monero on a KYC exchange, then swap it for Bitcoin with a VPN at a non-KYC swap service, can the IRS or government trace it back that I own the money? My response, they don't need to trace it. The KYC exchange will report to the IRS or tax authority of your country that you bought $100 worth of Monero with them, and then you will be responsible for telling the government what happened to that Monero if they ever asked. They're probably monitoring the swap services as well, especially some of these swap services have very low volume, and so it's relatively easy for the intel agencies to be watching them. So don't do something like that. It's just silly, and you don't want to touch Monero anyway. Next comment is from Neil Patton. Matt, please give me your opinion on Bitcoin OS and Grail bridges. This ZKP method appears to be the scaling, interoperability, programmability solution that requires no changes to Bitcoin. Please consider and share your thoughts. My response, it's a project run by shitcoiners who issued their own token, the SOV token. That's how you can always tell that a layer 2 is a scam if it uses its own token instead of using BTC. So for example, Lightning uses sats and uses Bitcoin. This is not a layer 2 scam, but Bitcoin does not need shitcoins to scale. And so there are a lot of affinity scammers out there who just put Bitcoin in the name, issue their own token, and expect to fool newcomers to the space. You got to be very careful. Another question here, why are you not using the wallet that comes with Bitcoin Core? This is, of course, the software along with Bitcoin Knots that Bitcoin node operators run. I'm not using it because it's not a great wallet. It's also a hot wallet, so it's not safe for large amounts of Bitcoin. So feel free to ignore the wallet that comes with Bitcoin Core. It's more of a legacy product as I understand it. Why run a Bitcoin node? Jones here saying inaccurately that it costs you more in electricity. And my response, no, running a Bitcoin node is like running your laptop. Electricity usage is negligible. Running a Bitcoin mining rig is expensive, though, especially a powerful one, not a big axe or a small one, but one of the main large ASICs. That is what I think this commenter is confusing the two things. The problem with any real estate, and especially rental properties, this was, I thought, a very good comment here. If you are ever tempted by real estate, especially by multifamily rentals, I'd highly encourage you to watch this video. Many people have said it's cured them of their real estate addiction, but I was discussing whether you should buy a multifamily rental and real estate as an investment in general versus Bitcoin. And then I thought this was a great comment here from Saratoga Pilot 6100. The problem with any real estate, and especially rental properties, is that the government can and frequently does confiscate such properties through a combination of rent controls, property tax, and mandatory structural code upgrades. Anyone who hasn't owned a lot of rentals like I have is not aware of how this can happen, especially in California, which is where I used to own the majority of my rentals. This person says, I know from experience that the governments are they try to confiscate people's real estate in these subtle ways. I know this from experience. I have a 15-unit apartment building on Nob Hill in San Francisco that I cannot sell. For those of you not familiar, Nob Hill is obviously one of the more ritzy neighborhoods in San Francisco with amazing views. But this is a failed city run by complete idiots and Marxists. So this is what happens. And this is one of the dangers of real estate. It's not portable. And so if your local government gets taken over by Marxists, this is what will happen. I find it comical that they say Bitcoin has no value, it's a pet rock, and only criminals use it. However, if it's so worthless, then why are those criminals using it? Why are they selling kilos of blow for something worthless? Makes absolutely no sense. This is very frequently the way people attack Bitcoin. They'll say these self-contradictory things and end up looking like fools. Question from Pet Peeves here. Matthew, I inherited a large amount of money. Do I lump sum or DCA, dollar cost average it over the next year into Bitcoin? My response, it really depends on your conviction and how much study you put into Bitcoin. You won't be able to hodl large amounts unless your conviction is as big as your bags. I think that's a good way for most people to size their Bitcoin position. If you're not sleeping at night, then you own too much Bitcoin for your particular situation. If you're sleeping fine, you can consider increasing it. And there's this old saying in the stock market, sell down to the point of being able to sleep at night. So if you have too much, you can sell down. If you have too little, you can, of course, increase it. But don't be fooled by these new Bitcoin-backed loans from Coinbase. This looks very tempting. You can borrow US dollar, USDC, the US dollar stablecoin against Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin, rolling out to US users now. More collateral assets in regions to come. It's a very, very misleading product, but Bitcoin Overflow here has a good summary of it. Coinbase says they're restarting Bitcoin loans, but read the fine print. Coinbase is just the middleman. They wrap Bitcoin into CBDC. That's, I believe, Coinbase BTC, which is a wrapped version of Bitcoin, where someone else is holding your Bitcoin and you have counterparty risk. And after wrapping the Bitcoin, they deploy it into one of the grossest things you can imagine, an Ethereum-based DeFi lending protocol called Morpho. We've already talked about how unstable Ethereum itself is, collapsing relative to Bitcoin. So you probably don't want to have some Bitcoin IOU wrapped up in a DeFi lending protocol on top of this foundation of sand, which is Ethereum. And Bitcoin Overflow here says rightly, I would not touch this product with a 10-foot pole. Once again, Coinbase creating terrible products. Brian Armstrong, the CEO and founder of Coinbase, had a tweet here. This is a great articulation of just how foundational sound money is to a prosperous society. Bitcoin is a moral imperative. He loves virtue signaling like this, but I thought Parker Lewis had a good response to him. Why do you try to sell everyone shitcoins if Bitcoin is a moral imperative? Of course, Coinbase and Brian Armstrong do this for the money so he can pay for his $100 million house in LA. Parker goes on to say, while I used Coinbase for a few years, past tense, I only ever bought Bitcoin, and this is the app home screen. This is Zuck rehabbing image, but for Bitcoin. I think that's true. Daniel Batten had a great tweet here about the ECB, the European Central Bank, reminding us how the ECB almost perfectly picked the bear market bottom in 2022, talking about Bitcoin being dead on November 30th, 2022. Bitcoin is up over 520% since then. It's also interesting, as we always do on this channel, to denominate the returns of other assets in Bitcoin terms rather than fiat or US dollar terms. But one thing I never thought of doing this to was applying it to my former industry, which is the hedge fund industry that I used to work in. But I think SAFE does a great job here. Top hedge fund returns in 2024 adjusted for Bitcoin, so denominated in Bitcoin return terms rather than US dollar return terms. And these are some of the best hedge funds out there. DE Shaw has been top of the list for decades now, down 38%. So if you're investing in hedge funds, you're actually losing money relative to Bitcoin. And so if you don't have the net worth to be able to invest in hedge funds, don't worry about it. Your asset, if you own Bitcoin, is outperforming all of the hedge fund masters. I thought this, when we're talking about people trying to rehab themselves and get on the right side of current politics, the Mark Zuckerberg interview with Joe Rogan was one of these rehabilitation tours, but I like what 5 times August, he had some pretty funny tweets about this. I was like, screw you, government, you can't tell me what to do. But then I did do what they told me to do, and then I mandated everyone at my company get the shot, and then I donated $400 million to help Biden get elected. But rest assured, the whole time I was doing it out of protest. It goes on, there comes a time in every man's life when he has to stand up for what's right and true. And when I saw people having Zoom funerals for their loved ones, I just couldn't take it anymore. That was the moment I decided to sit idly by for 4 years. Then once Kamala lost the election, that's when I knew it was time to bravely step forward as a whistleblower. So be careful of people who are on the rehabilitation tour and may not actually be rehabilitated. I thought this was another interesting tweet from SAFE about Javier Milei in Argentina. This is the summary of what SAFE is writing here. Milei is a vintage Latin American populist inflationist, having some good charts. SAFE has some good charts here about the growth of the money supply under Milei. Milei is a vintage Latin American populist inflationist, buying short-term popularity with long-term inflation and debt, essentially no different from every Argentine leader since Perón. I haven't dug that deep into this. It's quite complicated, but it does look like the money supply has been growing. Obviously, Milei is much better than a pure Marxist socialist type, but I thought this was an interesting alternate perspective from someone who's clearly very pro-libertarian and pro-Austrian economics like SAFE. Max Kaiser with a great tweet here referring to the LA fires of the past couple weeks. LA, the most vocal about global warming, also the least prepared. Michael here saying, it's amazing that our government will tell you with a straight face that they can't stop a regional fire. But if you just pay more in taxes, they can change the entire global climate. It's even more amazing that anyone believes them. This was a great cartoon here about this little dog. Does he bite? No, but he can hurt you in other ways. And then the dog goes on to say, Republicans have never actually decreased the size of the government. And the GOP guy here is weeping. Unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of good things coming in with Trump, but unfortunately, it looks like he's getting ready for the new administration by launching a scam coin. This is a Trump meme coin built on Solana, I believe. Fight, fight, fight. It was obviously a time when he showed incredible courage, and I think this is very demeaning and very humiliating to try to monetize this. And the allocation is absolutely disgusting. Just 10% for the public, 90% for insiders. And it looks like, according to Predator, that the Trump organization owns 80% of the supply. So only the public gets 10%. There must be 10% for the creators or something like this. And then Trump owns, and his organization owns, 80% of the supply. When it comes to pre-mines or initial insider allocations, this is probably the scammiest coin that I've ever seen. The only comparable is the Binance coin, which had a 50% initial allocation to insiders, and this one has an 80 or 90% allocation to insiders. Predator goes on to point out, if this token has a $23 billion market cap, as it did at the time of this tweet, and Trump owns 80% of the supply, that means that Trump likely just 10x'd his net worth overnight. Paper gains, of course. There's no way there's liquidity to get out at these levels, but this is very discouraging to see that the first Bitcoin president is also going to be the first shitcoin president. And all I can say is he better free Ross on day one. If he doesn't do this on Monday, along with his other executive orders, then I think it's going to be a pretty depressing 4 years. But hopefully he comes through on the Bitcoin side as well. He's a really paradoxical person who has many of the right views and does a lot of good. And I'm not saying that I wish Kamala and Tim were in the office instead, because they're absolutely stupid, incompetent Marxists. But it is very discouraging to see that the first Bitcoin president being involved with scams like this. And it really makes you question how much he and his family and insiders and his administration care or understand Bitcoin at all, or is it just a pretext for doing family scams like this Trump coin? So I'd urge President Trump, whatever you do, you better free Ross Ulbricht on day one. This is the main reason I voted for you. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.